All right, welcome in Florida Football Insiders Podcast. Appreciate you finding us. Hopefully, you enjoyed my recap of all the state schools over the weekend. Now we're going to get a little more in depth about a couple of these schools. Most importantly, the huge win by the Florida State Seminoles going to Death Valley and getting it done in overtime over Clemson with my man JP Peterson, State
I'll be a total
insider extraordinaire, former media guy up in Tallahassee for many years, and now he is has his own great show down here in the Tampa Bay area, the JP Peterson Show, as part of the FanStream Sports platform. Welcome in, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Jason. Good to be here. Love your stuff. Big weekend for FSU fans. I was just reliving it with a couple of friends, reading their blogs, and just some guys that went up to Clemson. With it, I must give them a nod to their hospitality. They are the most welcoming, hospitable fans maybe in America.
Okay.
They make you feel great and then normally kick your ass and send you home with a nice buzz and a full belly. By the way, the way it should always be on every campus and every NFL stadium. It's football, people. It's not war. This just in, Philly fans. You don't have to hate the other team or the people wearing the other colors and beat the shit out of them. It's just football. But yeah, hats off to the Clemson fans. They're always the best, most hospitable. Hey, they're down home South Carolina people. That's right. Good. My business all the time.
There you go. And finally, Florida State's on the good side of a missed kick one of these days. How about that?
Oh, wow. How about that? Wide left. You know what? I felt bad for that kid for like 5 seconds. I really did. And his mom and dad sitting up there. But we've been there. If you're a Florida State fan, it's all right. It's all right. Now I know how they feel. That was a tough one, but interesting that Clemson goes out and recruits maybe the best kicker in high school football, and the kid just can't handle the pressure, and they got to go get a kid that never got the kick because the guy ahead of him was so good for 4 years, and finally says enough's enough. Then they recruit this other kid. He never gets a shot, and Dabo's got to go begging and pleading back to him, on the golf courses of Myrtle Beach, and he doesn't quite answer the bell. But let's be honest. If we're being totally objective, FSU probably didn't, need to bring it down to a kick many of those years. Right. Probably should have been more aggressive and punched it in while they were moving the football. Yeah. You leave it up to a kicker, that's what's going to happen. And, Dabo and his group did not manage that game very well. That overtime, a series of plays.
That 3rd and 1 call in overtime, that screen they threw was awful.
They could have just handed it off to Will Shipley every time in overtime and just won the game. FSU's defense at that point was not stopping the run. Yeah. And he wants to say, well, he had a check with me. Well, he shouldn't have a check with me in his 5th start in that situation. That's bad.
Hand the ball off. Hand the ball off.
Yep. You shouldn't have an option there. Don't give your quarterback an option on a check with me there.
Right.
Hand the ball off. So he's got to wear that one. Dabo spent a good part of the day pointing fingers at other people on the sideline and on TV. So
interesting. Yeah, no, it's interesting where that Clemson program's going. He's been very anti-transfer portal, so that it'd be interesting to see how they react in the next. This year's done. They're not going to be in the mix this year. How he responds in the offseason with the transfer portal and staff changes or whatever, they got to do differently at Clemson, because they're kind of going down a couple notches here.
If you don't ask the dinosaurs, if you don't adapt to your surroundings, you become extinct. And Dabo is looking very much like a brontosaurus right about now.
And it's clear. Yeah, it's clear the talent level is not near what it was 5-6 years ago at Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a destination program. How many people would love to transfer in to Clemson?
Right? Are you
kidding me? The facilities there, everything. I mean, that's a great place to play football. And you want to keep the door closed.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's get to the Florida State side of things. To me, obviously the play of the game was the strip sack on the blitz, turned into the tying touchdown. Florida State was teetering right there. If Clemson punches it in right there, but puts them down 14, that game's probably over. But give Florida State defensively credit. They continue the pressure and the depth. I think the depth that Norvell has built up with both sides of the ball is really starting to show here with this huge September run they've had with Clemson and LSU.
Kalen DeLoach, the play of the year, no question about it. Without that play, they don't win that game. That was a complete game changer.
Yep.
A season changer for FSU. You're absolutely right. Clemson had the momentum. The FSU, let me just say this first and foremost, okay? That's a huge win for FSU.
Yep.
You haven't won there since 2013. You got to beat the big dog to beat a big dog, to quote Ric Flair, or butcher it, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
To be the man, you got to beat the man, brother.
That's right. You got to. So they had to do it. And to walk into Clemson like that in that situation where they know their program is on the line and the dynasty is on the line, and to win that game, I don't give a crap how you get it done. That is a huge, huge win. And 4 years in the making for Mike Norvell, 2 years removed from losing to Jacksonville State.
Right.
You're now back on top in the ACC, which gives you a plate at the table for the championship game. Get into the playoff. Let's go. So I'm not gonna apologize for any of that. Now, that said, this defense has got a long way to go.
Right.
And without that big play, this defense just gets trampled. They gave up 429 yards. The Noles were outgained by over 100 yards in this one. Time of possession, all the numbers pointed to Clemson. But when you make big plays, like last night, the Bucs had opportunities to make big plays. They didn't make them. Right. Jamel Dean can't make the plays.
Mike
Caleb
Evans
Deloach made the play.
Right.
Missed his block. And then Fisk, thank God, handed it off to to get the pick six. What a huge play, man. What a huge play. I have a lot of issues with the way Adam Fuller is calling this defense. At third downs, it seems like the other team always gets the matchup that they want, which is the essence of coaching, right? So they've got to do a lot of self-scouting in this off week and get their coaching in line with the talent. I think offensively they're playing subpar. Now I'll say this: you got 4 games to win in September. You got to maybe simplify things and let your athletes just go win those games, and they did that. Okay, they did that. Now self-scout, get that offense much more varied, much more multiple. Get Jaheim Bell involved. Get the other tight end involved. Get the backs involved in the passing game. Let's not just be, Johnny Wilson.
Jump balls. All they're doing.
I know that's what Clemson was giving them, and they were daring them to do it. But I think, at some point you got to use some other weapons.
Yep.
Obviously, and Jordan was hurt. He couldn't run. They knew that. So gutsy performance by him. But this was an overall hell of an effort by this team. They fought to the end. The fight in this team from the day Mike Norvell took over has been completely different than what we saw with Willie Taggart or Jimbo Fisher, frankly.
Right.
So complete buy-in, hell of a win on so many levels. Now let's nitpick it.
Why is this team different? Why can this team run go the distance as opposed to teams in the past? I think you have so many fifth-year guys coming back, Jordan, Verse, guys in the secondary. I think that the depth and the experience is kind of like the old school Florida State, where you have the internal leadership, where you don't have to, the coach doesn't have to beg you to try to motivate you. I think the internal leadership is what's going to hopefully get this team over the top into the playoff.
I agree. That they're getting all those guys to come back is big, but Jordan Verse, time to start playing some football, young man. Time to start beating somebody off the corner, double team, whatever, single team. He wasn't double teamed all that much.
Right.
You have to start beating people and making plays because your draft stock is sinking, my friend. He needs to step up and play a lot better. But yeah, I think the leadership on this team, the back end still worries me a little bit. They may, want to get some of their younger corners who are sitting on the bench involved. Guys are not making plays when they should be making plays. And that front seven is way more talented than the team should not be able to run the football on them the way they are. So I think, I think their best football is ahead of them. They need to clean some things up. They need to get healthy, but the schedule obviously looks, you always go into it saying, it looks easy. Well, suddenly Duke doesn't look that easy, does it?
Right.
That looks like a tough football game, right? Miami doesn't look that easy, right? You beat them 45-3 last year. I don't think that's going to happen this year. So that game looks a little bit tougher. Florida, they just beat Tennessee. That might be a night game in the Swamp. So, that doesn't look that. And you're going to have North Carolina possibly in the championship game. So it's no cakewalk. It's no cakewalk, but you got probably have a little bit of cushion right now.
One loss of cushion. You probably got one loss.
I would agree with that. If as long as it's not too Pitt or whoever
Wake Forest.
Yeah, can't lose one of those. Can't lose one of those. But so I think you have a little bit of cushion. You could maybe lose to Miami, and then if you come back and win an ACC championship, but you might not get in the game if you lose to Miami, right?
Right.
But win a championship game, you might be able to get in because of the win over LSU, which I think is going to look like a really, really good win at the end of the year. So I think they have a shot. What percentage would I give it? 8-1, maybe, 8-1 shot. But like I said, 2 years removed from losing to Jacksonville State to have an 8-1 shot to win a national championship, I'll take it.
All right, let's go down to Miami. Let's talk about the Hurricanes. You mentioned them again. It seemed like a lot more buttoned up than they were last year. Year 2 of Mario. The quarterback's playing good again. They've reinforced the offensive and defensive lines. What do you see out of the Hurricanes after the big win against Jimbo and A&M?
How good is A&M? I don't know. But it's a big win, right? It's a big win. They're scoring points. They are fair scoring points. They're an offensive line will allow that when you got as many skilled players as they got. And Tyler Van Dyke is clearly a different quarterback than he was last year. Year 2 is a big deal. It's a big deal to be in the system. I think Cristobal's a great coach. I think he'll get them right. I still think it might be a year or two early for them. But they got talent. I'm glad this FSU game will be in Miami, but Miami's better, no question. But I don't think A&M is the program you think it is. I have some inside information, and let's just say behind the scenes, that place is a mess.
How cool would it be if we can get an undefeated Florida State and undefeated Miami early November for, I won't say all the marbles, but for a lot of the marbles?
Be nice again, right? It'd be nice with a little crisp air in Tallahassee, maybe on a Saturday night. To see that flaming spear hit the Seminole head with Miami and FSU both in the top 10. Yeah, sign me up for that. I'll be ready for that. Absolutely, 100%. But I think Miami, they still have a couple of games in them that they may not be able to win. So I'll wait to see if there's a little bit more consistency. FSU's won 10 in a row now. So Miami's well short of that.
Let's give a shout out to our guy Brad Johnson. How about at A&M last week? Son to brother combination. Max comes in relief, throws to his younger brother, the tight end. Cool moment there at Texas A&M when they score and beat Auburn. How about that?
That was so cool, and that's a long time coming too.
That's right.
So that was a nice moment for Brad. I know. For the kids, and I guess I don't know how injured the A&M quarterback is. Is Max gonna own that now? I don't know.
Right.
Cool
that moment though.
That was a special moment.
All right, let's go to Gainesville. Let's talk a minute or so on the Gators. What do you see out of Napier? Obviously, they had the semi-signature win against Tennessee. Still not where they need to be, but you can tell they're getting better, a little more organized. What do you think of Billy Napier year 2?
Well, I didn't see much of the Charlotte game, but the final score certainly was not impressive.
Right,
22-7. But I watched the entire Tennessee game, and that was a quintessential Swamp win. Right, that was a Florida. That was a crowd win. That was the players were inspired, and I think Napier coached a really, really good game. I think Billy Napier is going to be fine. I think the heat on him is a little excessive, to be quite honest. In year 2, he's got a lot of guys to get rid of, just like Mike Norvell did. You got to take out the trash to see who's invested and who's not. That takes a little bit of sifting through to do that. So, and he's got a lot of young players, and he's playing them. He's building something for the future. He's got a great recruiting class. To me, his deal this year is keep this class together. That's to win enough games to keep this class together. You recruited a top 5 class. You're on your way to doing something special, and that's the most important thing. I think the jury's still out on him as the coach in a major conference, but I think he'll figure that out. He's a super smart guy. He's charismatic. He knows how to recruit. I think if you're a Gator fan right now, just chill a little bit and let him work. Let him get the recruits in. They'll be fine.
Last thing, give me a thought on USF. Again, Alex Golesh 2-2. Good performance against Alabama. They seem so much more buttoned up and more competitive than they've been in years past. The defense played really well against Bama. Granted, Bama's quarterback situation was pretty bad that day in Raymond James. But give me a thought on USF's improvement in year one.
Well, first and foremost, for all of those who are still giving me crap for saying Deion Sanders was 90% headed to USF and saying that I made it up and it wasn't even that close. I hope you heard his interview with my good friend Bubba the Love Sponge, where he said, "Oh yeah, that was real. That was absolutely real. You looked at that really, really hard." But in the end, he knew that he would be at a disadvantage in recruiting with the big boys and not being in a Power Five. But he would have, if he joins USF, I don't know if that's USF in the ACC or SMU. I'm not quite sure, but
yeah.
Anyway, that being what it is, Alex Golesh is there. It's not Deion Sanders. And I think what he did against Alabama and then this last week against Rice, and I know it's just Rice, but that team got down, and that's when USF teams quit. That's what I've seen over the last few years. They get down a couple scores and they're just done. Not this team. That team kept fighting. It came back offensively. They are going to be really, really good. And they put up 600, 700 yards against Rice. Byron Brown is the real deal, man. That kid can throw the football. They're developing some weapons on the outside now. They got Naquan Wright steamrolling people from the backfield. Their offensive line looks, at least doable. Their defense isn't great, but they make plays every now and then. They got some athletes that can make some plays and get some takeaways. So that formula will help you win a few games, especially in that conference. So I think the last 2 weeks against Alabama and the win over Rice, that's huge for USF. And I think they're headed in the right direction. Golesh his offense is dynamic. We know that from Tennessee. And he's got to get some players. They don't have nearly enough players to compete for anything serious right now. But his portal is open. They need to get some NIL money at USF. That's an embarrassment of a atmosphere that a USF fan base is providing, but I get it. 1-11 doesn't bring a lot of people in, but I've said this a lot at USF. You got to bring an atmosphere before you're going to get good players. So if the fans want to bitch and moan, get your ass out to the games, create some type of atmosphere instead of an empty stadium, and that will help your team get players. I know it's hard sometimes, but when your team's not winning, but this team's interesting enough, they're fun enough. Get your butt out there, support your team, create an atmosphere so he can go get some players.
And to me, I was very disappointed. You couldn't, we talk about USF wanting to be a big program. We couldn't even sell out against Alabama. There were 10,000 empty seats in Raymond James against Alabama, the biggest home game in your history. Nick Saban in town, and you still got 10,000 empty seats. And of those people that were there, 25,000 were Alabama fans.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard to bitch at a fan base that has, endured 3 wins in 3 years. I get it. It's hard. But again, you gotta, in college football, it doesn't work like pro football, man. You got to create an atmosphere before the players are going to come. So suck it up, Buttercup. Get your best friend, pay their $10 for your ticket. Tickets aren't expensive for these games, and go to a college football game. And by the way, USF provide buses for the students.
Right.
I saw a couple of tweets this past week that they weren't running buses from campus to the stadium. If you have an off-campus stadium, that is non-negotiable. Right. That is non-negotiable. If you got money to build a new stadium, you got money to run buses from the student union to Raymond James Stadium on a Saturday. Let's go.
I'm with you. No, I'm with you. JP Peterson, great job, man. We're going to tell all the fans where they can find all your great work. You're on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, at FanStreamJP. Give the audience a little info about the show every day and all the great work you're doing with the Lightning as well.
Yeah, we are the only 2-hour daily live stream podcast, Tampa Bay sports centric. You can find us, just Google the JP Peterson Show. We're on all the podcast platforms. We're live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitter. So you can check us out 10 to 12 or listen as a podcast on Apple or Spotify, the JP Peterson Show. Yes, I'll be starting my Lightning duties This
weeks,
week,
right?
Yep, this week. Here we go.
There we go. JP does all the in-house between period stuff at Amalie Arena. So when you're at the arena, give a little wave up to JP.
Yes, come say hello. I walk around all the time, so come say hello.
Well, JP, appreciate the time on the Florida Football Insiders podcast. Great insight on the teams in the state of Florida, and we will be in touch real soon, buddy.
Yeah, great show, man. Enjoy doing it, Jason. Anytime.
All right, you got it, buddy. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep.